DOWC is a rapidly growing service contract provider whose expansive line of F&I products includes Adventure Guard, specialty protection for power sports vehicles. Voted the #1 Dealer's Choice Award dealer-owned warranty company provider. Learn more about DOWC's customizable F&I offerings at DOWC.com.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh over here, bringing you all of the newest news going on out here in motorcycling and power sports. And Josh, woo! Has it just been a roller coaster this week? It has. I mean, I honestly am on the struggle bus about what we're going to talk about today because there's 500 different things to talk about. It clearly is the beginning of motorcycling season because stories are coming fast and furious. But first things first, I just wanted to touch on, because we talked at such depth, at such length about it last week, which is MotoGP that just took place down in Austin, Texas at Circuit of the Americas. You and I were both on the fence about what was going to happen, and was Marc Márquez, the king of the Cowboys, going to race? And sure enough, spoiler alert, Marc Márquez did end up racing this past weekend. I know some of you didn't catch the race yet, so I don't want to spoil it for you, but you have got to go and stream it. It was a total barn burner. I think the one thing I can tell you, without ruining too much of the drama, is the fact that for the very first time ever, the top 5 bikes off of the grid were all Ducatis, all single manufacturer, all Ducatis, the very first 5 bikes to launch, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm sure the people at Ducati were just pleased as punch. Anywho, very exciting racing going on. So that's the very first thing that I wanted to touch on real fast. But I've got some other great stories coming your way today, so stay tuned. I've got stories about some new bikes from Harley Davidson that are in the rumor mill. It is all covered in mist and mystery. Who knows what they're going to be? But I've got a really good guess. And then we're also going to be talking about some lane-splitting laws and a couple of rad bike shows that are going on out on the West Coast. Josh, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, my first thing we're going to talk about is we are going to get dirty. And then second thing that we're going to talk about after we've gotten dirty is we're going to go to Wall Street. So it seems like the right thing to do, right?
So it's a dirty story with more dirty stories and dirty money.
Correct.
I mean, this all makes perfect sense to me, Josh.
Yes.
So first things first, coming up this week on April 12th, the folks over at Harley Davidson are going to be having one of their annual, semi-annual, quarterly, it feels like now, digital launches. These go on every handful of months, particularly in the winter and springtime. Of course, we are all still kind of indoors. It is still cold. There's not a lot of trade shows. There's not a big show here in the US. So it's all been digital launch for the past handful of years. Well, there has been several sneak peek and teaser moments going on out on the internet to stir up some excitement. And a couple of very eagle-eyed folks have gone to the trouble of not only deep diving into those videos, but they have also gone into the Harley Davidson websites and started digging through parts. Here's the really interesting thing that happens in motorcycle land that you watching at home might not be aware of, and that is the fact that the left hand does not talk to the right hand at motorcycle OEM level. So a lot of times there'll be parts and things floating around on the internet that this company over here doesn't know about, this department doesn't know about over here, the marketing team doesn't know, the R&D people don't know. It is all a little bit more disconnected than you would think, and there's a really very clever way to go into, and it's not just Harley Davidson. People go and cruise BMW stuff all the time to find behind the scenes sneak peeks because they decode these part numbers and figure out what bike it's for, meaning like it's the next bike that's coming, right? So there is a couple of websites that have gone to the trouble of decoding some of these part numbers, and there is a really, really interesting news ahead of the launch that Harley Davidson is going to be jumping back in with this 975 CC bike. So several years ago, when Harley Davidson launched that big 1250 bike, they were talking. There was also rumor about this 975 machine, and it was supposed to be a bike called the Bronx, and it was a very like naked style Street Fighter vibe, super super sexy. Everybody fell over about it. Everybody loved it. Well, so it immediately got killed. It was one of the first things to get killed when they brought in a new CEO and they decided to focus on their bigger, more heavyweight machines instead. But I guess it wasn't killed for long. It just got postponed because this is going to be, again, this is all just rumor according to some of these parts numbers, but there is a rumor that the 975 is coming back and it is going to live in several different forms, one of which is going to be the next version of the Sportster. So long live the Sportster. The Sportster is king. The Sportster is coming back. I was of the mindset that this 1250 Custom that's also coming very, very shortly, I was of the mindset that that was going to be considered the new Sportster, but there's talk that this is actually going to be a 975 package. That Sportster, however, the next rumor is that it's going to be called the Nightster. And here's a great behind the scenes photo of it. You can't see too much. It still, again, is shrouded in mystery. We're all going to have to wait and see what happens on April 12th. But if you want to go ahead and throw that next slide up, we've got a couple of images, a couple of stills from the video. And then just released today, a couple of other eagle-eyed folks out there have decoded several other parts, and their belief is that there also is going to be a Pan America 975, a smaller displacement Pan America, to compete with those closer to that tiger kind of genre and that more middleweight adventure category. This is the belief, and there's going to be two versions of it. What are the versions going to be? The belief is that one is going to be more of like a fully stacked with the adjustable ride height and all the bells and whistles and all the computers and goodies on it. And one might be more of like a stripped down, more of a spare version that's meant to be more of like maybe like a rally type idea. We're all going to have to wait and see and stay tuned, but some very exciting news for the folks over at Harley Davidson. What do you think about that, Josh?
So for me, hearing the adventure side of it with the 975, I mean that's in an area that I kind of know and love there, and that's to me what I could see the high end and then the stripper version of it too, I guess. But the other thing that I could see is them following KTM's lead version on it. Yeah, well, that's the hand crank windows, the no power locks, the version like that is not that you need to wear a certain outfit to be on it. Or a lack of an outfit.
I thought for sure you were going to say that that it had like sparkly shoes on or something. I wasn't sure where you were headed with that. But anywho, no, I completely agree with you. I know.
The thing that I would see with it is I could see them going the KTM route, where you've got one that is much more street version, and then you've got the other version that's geared for that little more hardcore off-road guy. I mean, KTM, when you look at the SDR through the whole line. Yeah. They do two different things very well, but they do two different things.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you. I think that that's kind of where they're headed, but we're all going to have to wait and see.
Sure.
But I love all this nerdiness. I love all these people that dig through part schematics and track this stuff down and decode it. I love it. It's sneak peek. It's behind the scenes, and I am here for it. What's going on with your first story today, Josh?
So there is the Royal Enfield Slide School by Moto Anatomy. So this, as soon as I saw this, I mean, I got to tell you, I'm not a flat track guy. I do think flat track's cool, but it's just never been something that I've even thought about dabbling in. So what is the Royal Enfield Slide School? So this is a 3.5-hour track course where you will be on a Himalayan that has some fettering done with it, we'll call it by S&S. So in terms of an exhaust, they've got, if we look at the next slide here, there is 19-inch wheels on both sides of it. The one thing that always gets me with flat track is I'm big on brake balance and brake bias and all those other things and learning how to use the brakes. There are no front brake. This is why all flat track people are crazy, in my opinion, but nonetheless, when they do all the modifications and everything like that to it, they get the Himalayan on a diet down to 360 pounds. To me, that makes this a pretty cool kind of track weapon of sorts and a great bike because it's not going to have radical dynamics. There's not a not stiff head angle or anything like that. it's going to be easier for most people to ride and learn on. So one of the things that I absolutely love about this is that I have found that there are so many skills that you can learn off-road and in the dirt that are transferable to the road. It doesn't seem to go from road to dirt as well as it goes from dirt to road. A situation like this, something like this, you can learn so much about a bike that it's just an ultimate opportunity. So there is a ton of transferable skills that you can learn for only $250. That sounds like the cheapest, funnest afternoon ever, if you ask me. I mean, that's a hell of a good time. So that, to me, is the example that I like to give on that is the skills that you will learn here. For that $250, you will spend, when you get the skills that you'll learn here, you will spend that much less on underwear that you have to replace out on the road because of those, we'll call them uh-oh moments. So that is, to me, is the I mean, it's a bargain. It is a great investment here. So I mean, I know you love the flat track stuff, Jacqui. I mean, is this something where you're thinking maybe you do this?
Oh, absolutely. So I've already taken 2 schools with Johnny Lewis through his back in the Wayback 10 training camp. He now is full time with the slide school folks, but in the Wayback Machine, I did a couple of camps with him. I've done several slide camps and several flat track camps. I
Nice.
love these schools. I think they are such a good time, and they translate. The skills are just so incredible.
Right.
You really don't understand how much you don't understand until you go and do a dirt
Correct.
school. Even if you've been riding street for a while, I've been riding street for years. When you go there, it is a total game changer, and it teaches you
Yep.
so much about trusting the tires and trusting the suspension, and all of that translates over. I am here for any type of schooling you ever want to talk about on this program, Josh. I love it. So for $250, though, I didn't know the price of this school, but that is outstanding. That is
Yes.
a bargain. That is a winner chicken dinner. Good call on bringing that onto today's program. Another winner chicken dinner that I wanted to make everybody aware about. This did happen actually. This was actually a couple weeks ago, but I just wanted to give it a little bit of love on today's show, and that is the fact that Arizona did pass. And I say finally because they've been working on this for
Yeah.
4 years now. They finally passed a motorcycle lane filtering bill that is going to be going into effect shortly. I am super pleased as punch to hear about this. I am a huge fan of lane splitting and lane filtering at the very least. I think this should be applicable in every single mid to large size city, in particular in the US. If you're not familiar with what lane filtering is, it is not lane splitting. Do not get confused. They are 2 somewhat separate things. Lane filtering is when traffic is stopped. Motorcycles can filter through or lane split when cars are stopped and make their way to the front of the line, therefore getting the first launch and getting out of the way of the rest of the traffic behind them. This is a much, in my humble opinion, and they've done plenty of studies to prove it, a much safer way to navigate, particularly in mid to larger size cities. Lane filtering was passed in Utah relatively recently-ish to huge success. Again, they just passed it in Arizona, and the next state that they are heading towards, and they've again been putting years into this, is actually Oklahoma. So congratulations to the folks in Arizona on passing an incredibly intelligent bill. I just wanted to bring it up because I know they just had Arizona Bike Week. Cave Creek Bike Week was just this past week or so. So I just wanted to bring it to attention while people were looking at Arizona. If you're heading on down there to ride, again, lane filtering is going to be an option. I do not believe it is immediately effective. I think it is going to be sometime in the near future, but they did pass this bill. So huge thumbs up and kudos from me. What's your second story for today, Josh?
So first off, I am always going to clarify that this is not investment advice, because rather than listening to me for investment advice, you'd probably be better off taking your money out to your backyard, soaking it in gas and lighting it on fire. That being said, Gogoro is now listed on the NASDAQ as of April 5th. Now, this is a company that Jacqui's probably mentioned more than I have, but this is a company that does swappable battery technology. So they are currently on board with 10 vehicle makers, 47 different models. They have performed, as it says here, 255 million battery swaps. So one of the things that I find so interesting about this company is battery swaps, especially in more of the in more urban areas, are such a great idea, because like for me at home here, I got a garage, I pull my bike in. If I want to plug it in, it's no problem. So many people in cities can't do that. They just don't have a place where that's indoors or near an outlet. So this is a great option. You can actually pick up this battery, as you see the guy there in the center, pick it up and pull it out of the station, put it in your bike, and go with a fully charged battery. So the cool thing about that is A, it takes you less time to swap a battery than it does to fill up your half of a gallon tank that your scooter has. On top of it, there's the other thing that I love is a worry for a lot of people with electric motorcycles, and that is battery degradation over time. So it's really, when you look at the cost of it, it's no different than an engine rebuild. But with this, you're never worried about battery degradation because Gogoro is taking care of that for you. The other thing is this allows them, as they've moved in with other manufacturers, they can focus on their battery technology and not have to worry about engines and other items like that, the motors and other items like that. With them centralizing and focusing on that battery technology, you know they're going to make the best and the least expensive batteries out there. So to me, there's all sorts of great stuff with this. I mean, like I said, you can swap out a battery faster than you can fill up that half-gallon tank. If this means something to you, 90% of or 97% of electric scooters in Taiwan use the Gogoro system. So this isn't something that I see coming to the, as we mentioned a few weeks back, the Wyoming BDR. Probably not. Is this something that I could see in New York, Boston, Miami, all these major metropolitan areas? When you look at the number of scooters in those areas, I see some great things coming here. I love swappable battery technology. I'm hoping to see that move forward more. We've talked about it a lot, Jacqui. I mean, I know you're in Louisville. Do you have one of these out front yet? And are you going to get a scooter for that yet, or no?
So first things first, however, with the price of gas right now, I mean, if you're not on the
Yes,
scooter tip, I don't even know what you're doing. And if this doesn't sell
correct,
e-bikes like better than any marketing campaign
correct.
ever could, I don't even know what to say. But all jokes aside, I
Agree.
am a huge fan of this platform. We have discussed it at length here on the show. You know, I'm a huge fan. I think it is just
Same
incredibly,
here.
incredibly smart. I mean, look at this image. He's basically going and like picking up a gallon of milk. Like this is no big deal. You go to the corner, you grab a battery, you slap it in, you get on down the road. You know, all you're doing is commuting around town. Half of Americans live in cities. This does make sense here. Whether we want to
Yeah.
wrap our minds around it or not, this does make sense here. I personally have already jumped on the NASDAQ and snapped up my 10 shares this morning, so wish me luck. And I'm excited for it. I think it's great. I think it's terrifically cool, and I love it. And I can't wait to go overseas and see this live for myself. That's how much of a nerd I am about it. Like I think that this is
Yeah.
just super brilliant. So, but yeah, very exciting, and we will see. Wish me luck out there on the stock market, because you're right. As far as my stock knowledge goes, I could just as easily go take my cash out back and light it on fire. So, we'll see what happens. But I had to put my money where my mouth is. I'm a believer in this technology, and that leads me right
Same here.
into one last thing I wanted to discuss here on the program while we were talking e-bikes. There is an excellent, and I mean excellent exhibit that has been curated by my good buddy Paul D'Orlans from the Vintage Ent. He has curated an electric motorcycle show. It is at the Petersen Museum in downtown Los Angeles. This is just stunning. This is just some of the most wicked and mean and different and land speed record and just some of the craziest e-bikes you've ever seen in your life. It'll completely change the way that you think about e-bikes. I guarantee 110%. This show opens on April 14th. And again, this is at the Petersen Museum. So I just wanted to give him a little bit of love. And I think I've got two slides just of two different bikes. But again, there's a handful of machines there, and it's a little bit of everything from the little bikes to great big bikes to land speed record bikes. Anyway, that's what's going on out in LA. So if you are West Coast based, make sure you put that on your calendar. Again, that show
One of
opens
the
on April 14th.
One of the
Yep.
great things that I love with the electric bikes is, I mean, everyone knows that I am a function over form guy. I don't care what it looks like as long as it goes. But the thing that's brilliant with so many of the e-bikes and the electric bikes is that we've always had to build motorcycles around an internal combustion engine, and it always kind of has to have this one type of shape. Um, with electric bikes, I mean, you need basically a couple of pop cans taped together. Otherwise, you can make it whatever shape you want to. So that opens up
Yeah.
a world of possibilities like this. Batteries fit wherever. So, I mean, to me, this starts to make it so, like I said, maybe I care a little bit more about form, but we'll see. No
Yeah.
promises.
So no promises there, none taken. That second slide that Ashley just threw up, by the way, this first bike is Curtis Motorcycles, which is a relaunch of the Curtis
Yeah.
brand here in the United States. And then that second bike is a custom built by East Coast bike builder Walt Siegel, who is absolutely brilliant and spectacular and builds phenomenal motorcycles. And he
Nice.
decided to jump on into the e-bike game and built this absolute stunner. Again, that's April 14th at the Petersen Museum. If you are in the middle part of America, however, I also want to add one last note to today's program. That is the fact that our friends over at the Crawford Auto and Aviation Museum, which is in beautiful downtown Cleveland, is opening up their next motorcycling exhibit on April 16th. So a whole bunch of exciting things going on this month. I told you,
Yeah.
Josh, it's just been
It's
crazy
crazy.
town for motorcycling going on right now. The news is just so hot and heavy. But
Yes.
that show opens on April 16th. And one more note, I mentioned it on last week's show, which, by the way, you can always go back and watch our previous shows out on YouTube or here on the Facebooks. They live here forever. Just click down thread. I discussed a gentleman named Art Zimmerman, whose dad hand built a motorcycle that was on display as part of this curated exhibit. We had just had the chance to speak with him, had a great, 20 to 30-minute interview, just tons of laughs, incredible, fascinating stories. I just want to take a second, give him a little bit of love because he passed away very suddenly last week. He was super lively and just full of these incredible stories. He did pass away, so we will be putting together a little in memoriam video for him. But the reason I bring all of this up is it is even more important to go and check out this exhibit at the Crawford and go check out that
Sure.
rad Zimmerman bike. Incredibly special, built in Ohio, just a very neat, cool thing. We will
Yeah.
have that story and that feature and that interview for you here on MPN. So make sure you hit notifications on and subscribe. You are not going to want to miss any of these awesome stories that we bring you. Like I said, we're bringing you all of the newest of the new news out here, Josh, every single week. All these great
Yes.
stories. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Josh, for bringing some rad stories to today's
Thank
program.
you.
And we will see you next week.